Mother Hucheloup did not appear to understand very clearly the benefit which she was to derive from the reprisals made on her account. She was satisfied after the manner of that Arab woman, who, having received a box on the ear from her husband, went to complain to her father, and cried for vengeance, saying, "Father, you owe my husband affront for affront." The father asked, "On which cheek did you receive the blow?" "On the left cheek." The father slapped her right cheek and said, "Now you are satisfied. Go tell your husband that he boxed my daughter's ears, and I have accordingly boxed his wife's." The rain had ceased. Recruits had arrived. Workmen had brought under their blouses a barrel of powder, a basket containing bottles of vitriol, 2 or 3 carnival torches, and a basket filled with fire-pots, left over from the King's festival. This festival was very recent, having taken place on the 1st of May. It was said that these munitions came from a grocer in the Faubourg Saint-Antoine named Pepin. They smashed the only street lantern in the Rue de la Chanvrerie, the lantern corresponding to one in the Rue Saint-Denis, and all the lanterns in the surrounding street, de Mondétour, de Cygne, de Précieuse, and de la Grande, and de la Petite Truanderie. And Horace, Combeferre, and Courfeyrac directed everything. 2 barricades were now in the process of construction at once, both of them resting on the Corinth House and forming a right angle. The larger shut off the Rue de la Chanvrerie, the other closed the Rue Mondétour on the side of the Rue de Cygne. This last barricade, which was very narrow, was constructed only of casts and paving stones. There were about 50 workers on it. 30 were armed with guns, for on their way they had effected a wholesale loan from an armorer's shop. Nothing could be more bizarre, and at the same time more motley, than this troop. One had a round jacket, a cavalry sabre, and 2 holster pistols. Another was in his shirt sleeves with a round hat and a powder horn slung at his side. A third wore a plastron of 9 sheets of grey paper, and was armed with a saddler's awl. There was one who was shouting, "Let us exterminate them to the last man, and die at the point of our bayonet." This man had no bayonet. Another spread out his coat, the cross-belt and cartridge box of a National Guardsman, the cover of a cartridge box being ornamented with this inscription in red worsted, "Public Order." There were a great many guns bearing the numbers of the legions, few hats, no cravats, many bare arms, some pikes. Add to this all ages, all sorts of faces, small, pale young men, and bronzed longshoremen. All were in haste, and as they helped each other, they discussed the possible chances. That they would receive succor about 3 o'clock in the morning. They were sure of one regiment, that Paris would rise. Terrible sayings with which was mingled a sort of cordial joviality. One would have pronounced them brothers, but they did not know each other's names. Great perils have this fine characteristic, that they bring to light the fraternity of strangers. A fire had been lighted in the kitchen, and there they were engaged in molding into bullets pewter mugs, spoons, forks, and all the brass tableware of the establishment. In the midst of it all they drank. Caps and buckshot were mixed pell-mell on the tables with glasses of wine. In the billiard hall, Mame Hucheloup, Matelote, and Gibelotte, variously modified by terror, which had stupefied one, rendered another breathless, and roused the third, were tearing up old dishcloths and making lint. 3 insurgents were assisting them, 3 bushy-haired, jolly blades with beards and mustaches, who plucked away at the linen with fingers of seamstresses, and who made them tremble. The man of lofty stature, whom Courfeyrac, Combeferre, and Enjolras had observed at the moment when he joined the mob at the corner of the Rue des Billettes, was at work on the small barricade and was making himself useful there. Gavroche was working on the larger one. As for the young man who had been waiting for Courfeyrac at his lodgings, and who had inquired for Monsieur Marius, He had disappeared at about the time when the omnibus had been overturned. Gavroche, completely carried away and radiant, had undertaken to get everything in readiness. He went, came, mounted, descended, remounted, whistled, and sparkled. He seemed to be there for the encouragement of all. Had he any incentive? Yes, certainly, his poverty. Had he wings? Yes, certainly, his joy. Gavroche was a whirlwind. He was constantly visible. He was incessantly audible. He filled the air as he was everywhere at once. He was a sort of almost irritating ubiquity. No halt was possible with him. The enormous barricade felt him on its haunches. He troubled the loungers. He excited the idle. He reanimated the weary. He grew impatient over the thoughtful. He inspired gaiety in some, and breath in others, wrath in others, movement in all, now pricking a student, now biting an artisan. He alighted, paused, flew off again, hovered over the tumult, and the effort sprang from one party to another, murmuring and humming and harassing the whole company, a fly on the immense revolutionary coach. Perpetual motion was in his little arms, and perpetual clamor in his little lungs. Courage! More paving stones, more casks, more machines! Where are you now? A hod of plaster for me to stop this hole with. Your barricade is very small, it must be carried up. Put everything on it, fling everything there, stick it all in. Break down the house. A barricade is Mother Gibot's tea. Hullo, here's a glass door. This elicited an exclamation from the workers. A glass door? What do you expect us to do with a glass door, tubercle? Hercules yourselves, retorted Gavroche. A glass door is an excellent thing in a barricade. It does not prevent an attack, but it prevents the enemy taking it. So you're never prigged apples over a wall when there are broken bottles? A glass door cuts the horns of the National Guard when they try to mount the barricade. Pardi, glass is a treacherous thing. Well, you haven't a very wildly lively imagination, comrades. However, he was furious over his triggerless pistol. He went from one to another demanding, "A gun! I want a gun! Why don't you give me a gun?" "Give you a gun?" said Combeferre. "Come now," said Gavroche, "why not? I had one in 1830 when we had a dispute with Charles X." And Enjolras shrugged his shoulders. "When there are enough for men, we'll give some to the children." Gavroche wheeled round haughtily and answered, "If you are killed before me, I shall take yours." "Gammon!" said Enjolras. "Greenhorn!" said Gavroche. A dandy who had lost his way and who lounged past the end of the street created a diversion. Gavroche shouted to him, "Come with us, young fellow. Well now, don't we do anything for this old country of ours?" The dandy fled. End of Book 12, Chapter 4. Recording by Martina Hutchins in Berkeley, California.